This thing with police violence and all that stuff, you know, I think cops definitely need to have some kind of better training not to be violent right away and stuff. It's like, I was working at the Kittitas County Fair, it's a restroom crew, and I suffered a grand mal seizure at the fair, and I was going to walk to the office and clock out from my shift because I knew I wasn't going to finish my shift. And I walked through the rodeo arena at the Kittitas County Fair, and three members of the sheriff's department for Kittitas County came up from behind me and forced me to the ground and handcuffed me. And again, all the while I'm still, I'm back. I'm out of the seizure, but they assumed I was gone. They forced me to the ground and handcuffed me, and they weren't asking me any questions to ascertain was I back. They just made an assumption, and that happened. And what's funny is I talked to the undersheriff for the sheriff's department, and he justified it by lying. He justified the actions by the deputies by lying to me, because he said, well, I didn't have a ticket, so I wasn't allowed in the fair or in the rodeo arena when it was the local talent rodeo. And all the while, it's like I didn't have a ticket to the fair, and it's like all the while, I'm still at the fair. All while this was going on, I was actually still getting paid. I hadn't clocked out yet. And, and again, that night, I guarantee you, the way the sheriff's deputies were towards me, if I didn't do what they wanted me to do, like if I told them I'm going to walk home, or I'm going to walk home, get my bike and, ride home, because I had hooked it to I locked it up at the student union for Central Washington University. I guarantee you, they were going to force me to do what they wanted me to do. And it's funny is, I had other seizures around Ellensburg, and the sheriff's, or the Ellensburg PD campus police never laid a hand on me. The sheriff for Kittitas County justified it because, well, the crowds and stuff. And it's like, I had a seizure during a concert at Central Washington University with hundreds of people a hell of a lot closer to me. And, when I came to, I was being walked out of the theater that the seizure was in, that the seizure I had was in. And again, I wasn't handcuffed. EMT had his arms around me. And it's just, I just really don't, for the life of me, don't understand why the sheriff's department still felt like they needed to do that to me. And, it's just this whole thing with police violence and stuff. It's like a cop can make an assumption, make the wrong assumption, physically harm you, and it's like, oh, well, we made the wrong assumption, whoop-de-doo, we get to keep our jobs, because it's like, or they can get away with murder. It's like that shooting in Seattle a few years ago with, Ian Burke, that police officer that shot the Native American woodcarver John T. Williams. He, if you watch the video of the shooting, or it wasn't of the shooting, but it was the seconds before, and then you heard shots. You see the car pull up to an intersection. All the while, John T. Williams is walking across the street, and he's looking at his board, and Ian Burke gets out of his car, and, he made an assumption. He assumed that John Williams saw him out of the peripheral of his eyes. So he comes up from behind John Williams and says, put the knife down, put the knife down, put the knife down, because he was carving up a piece of wood. But he never once said he was a police officer. He never once identified himself as a cop. And, and he shot John Williams 4 times. And it's like, the question is, if a cop came up from behind me and told me to stop doing what I was doing but never identified themselves as a cop, then why the hell should I stop doing what I'm doing? And the thing is, in Washington State, he didn't get to keep his job. He resigned, but, he basically got away with murder. And cops basically can get away with murder. A cop can kill somebody and it's like, oh, I was just doing my job. It's like the thing in Ferguson, I mean, the cops will lie to protect each other. It's the thin blue line. In the eyes of one cop, another cop can't do anything wrong. And you always heard the cops in Ferguson, if the injuries that officer suffered during that supposed scrum with Mike Brown were really serious, don't you think he would have immediately gone to the hospital? No, he was there in the police station for several hours. Don't you think he would have immediately gone to the hospital? And then the thing with Eric Garner, I mean, he's saying he can't breathe, and there's several cops around and they're restraining him. I mean, why the hell would you feel the need to... I mean, don't you have a taser or something? I mean, why would you feel the need to put him in a chokehold all the while other people are restraining him? I mean, how many cops does it take to do something like that? See, police officers now really, really make me fucking sick. Because, again, they basically have a license to get away with murder. They have a license to get away with physical violence. And it's like, oh, well, we're cops. We're just doing our job. Our job is, your job is to enforce the law. But your job doesn't give you a free pass to kill somebody. You all fucking make me sick. But I personally think, and it's funny is how cops, they have that thin blue line where in the eyes of one cop, another cop can't do anything wrong. And it's amazing how they all can seem to justify all this stuff. Do you ask any cop if, with all these shootings, it's like, were those cops right? And they'd be like, yeah. And it's like, I personally think a cop could probably justify child molestation if it was committed by another cop. Because in the eyes of one cop, another cop can't do anything wrong. Thank you, and good night.